the fourth deadline, and focused squarely on priority issues. I want to say that as we are putting together a supplemental budget, it is clear to me that nearly half of that budget is in response to the passage of the federal budget bill last July, the thing that the president likes to call the big, beautiful bill. We have talked a lot about HCMC and a facility in crisis. It would not be but for that bill and the already financial impact that they are feeling. And they're not the only hospital that is struggling. There are hospitals that are struggling and are teetering now across the state, particularly in rural hospitals. And you will see in Senator Wickland's Health and Human Services bill an intention on an uncompensated care fund for hospitals in distress. That is because of the action taken by this president and his Republican Congress last July. We know that family budgets are under distress. People are struggling with the cost of food, the cost of energy, now the cost of gas. And we will use the supplemental budget to our best ability to address those issues. As we continue to press the Congress to change the trajectory that they have taken, or we will change theirs. Minnesotans are struggling a lot with this economy and all of the things that have come at us, whether it is tariffs, cuts to health insurance and subsidies, making it impossible for some to be able to afford their health insurance. And now we're starting to see the ripple effect on current systems that we count on. A rise in property taxes, county costs that they can't bear under the mandates coming from the federal government, and of course, real pressure on our healthcare delivery system. We have a real challenge in front of us here in Minnesota, and we're going to use our tools to the best of our ability between now and the end of this short session with a supplemental budget to address some of those needs for the people of Minnesota, to make their life more affordable and to fulfill our commitment to them. And with that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Does your supplemental, or the discussions rather, about supplemental budget, especially related to the One Big Beautiful Bill, include like one-time money for the tech upgrades for counties that need to, deal with these outdated systems, now more requirements on Medicaid and SNAP? And what do you think that figure looks like?
It is an absolute priority for our caucus. I think you'll see that is something held by all four caucuses. We have a lot of work to do there. I think it will happen over successive legislative sessions. We made a down payment on that last year, and we're going to continue, and I think you'll see some spending there this year.
Do you have an idea what that number looks like? I mean, at least for the initial stopgap, and then, like you said, there'll be some subsequent things maybe in future years.
I think Senator Wickland has a figure somewhere around $50 million in her budget.
For tech?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll wait to see what other chambers do.
How about bonding? This is typically non-budget year bonding bill that you had to make up before. So how high a priority does it land this year?
High, top of the list.
Senator Johnson was not invited. You will need his votes, though, to the event today.
Yeah, I think that when we take up the issue of bonding, Senator Johnson will be included. Yeah.
Is it possible those tech upgrades would be included in a bonding bill?
Right now, I don't think they would fit in a bonding bill. I think we would probably need to make some changes in what we think about in terms of capital investment for that to be included in bonding. So I think you'd see it in an appropriation bill.
Have you guys had any discussions about a school safety plan? I mean, right now there's been kind of competing things, right? The House Republicans had their school safety earlier this week. House Democrats are doing theirs. There are actually some similarities. It's just a matter of like may versus must, a mandate or not a mandate. And then of course the gun issue seems to be entrenched over there and it probably won't pass. But I'm wondering, have you guys had talks between you, Leader Stevenson, and Speaker Dameth about where you can agree on school safety things that maybe don't involve guns?
So the Senate Democrats, and I hope some of our Republican colleagues, choose to vote for a package that we bring to the floor. Comprehensive, as we have committed all along, comprehensive like we talked about last fall, a package that includes funding for school safety, for mental health care, and takes on the issue of weapons of war. And once we pass that, then maybe perhaps we can unstick what's stuck over in the House and make some progress for the people of Minnesota, and particularly for the Annunciation community.
Do you know when you would see that?
Y'all do have an education finance bill that was presented yesterday, and it includes a lot of the elements that the House GOP wanted, but there's more funding for school safety than they had, and there's also less funding for private school safety, and there's nothing in there about weapons of war, as you call them. So, I mean, is that the Senate's position, the Senate DFL's position, is the education finance bill that was presented yesterday?
I think you'll see a package come through the Finance Committee in the next week or two that expresses our position and a comprehensive approach to this problem. Stay tuned.
So in other words, maybe what Corin said, plus adding the gun, you're going to vote on a bill that includes both guns and some of the other things that we just talked about.
That is our plan, yes.
And you think that that will be a standalone vote on the floor?
Yes.
Okay.
And like Democrats in the House, do you not want to do a watered down just school safety without addressing weapons? Do you think you have the same feeling on that?
I think it is really important that we take a comprehensive approach. And I hear my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, talking about that as well. But they call comprehensive an approach that talks about school safety and perhaps mental health care, but they don't want to talk about the weapons of war. If we listen to the families who've experienced what they've experienced this past summer, it is important that we address all three, and we're going to address all three. I don't want to leave this session without progress on this topic.
You do have at least one member who has said that I'm talking about Judy Seeberger, who said that she does not support a ban on assault weapons. And so I'm like, where do you go with that?
Members continue to do the work to understand what happened to the families in that community, what happens to families across this country, and the power of an assault weapon that can actually decimate a body. And I think they are considering that. Senator Mohammed has done exquisite work on this piece of legislation, and we will bring it to the floor for a vote.
So you're saying that it's really important, and of course your caucus in the House DFL wants to address guns. But at this point, do you think it's likely that you actually will as a legislature? I mean, can you say realistically with the situation in the House that you will be able to do that at this point?
Yeah, it is always the case, Mary Murphy, that you cannot foretell what happens as things move through this body. It is always, every year, someone will say, that's dead. We don't know that. We don't know that unless we give people an opportunity to consider a whole package. So I always come into these especially hard votes with an expectation and a hope, knowing in the end that people are going to cast their vote. That's their responsibility on the floor for the districts that they represent. I'm hopeful.
Will you take it up if you don't have the votes on the floor?
We will take it up.
There was an interesting bill yesterday, actually there's a fair amount of Democrats supporting it, the fraud tax, that if you're paying restitution, you're going to pay taxes too. Does leadership at the Senate have a stance on that this session?
Not yet. No.
I heard you talk about, supplemental largely addressing Medicaid and the impacts at the federal level. But I'm wondering how much you see there's only so many dollars to go around. You're not gonna, you don't have, first of all, it's not a budget year, but you also don't have that much on the bottom line.
Yeah.
Or how much are you considering safety at this building, like continuing the screenings, more staffing? I mean, is that something we could expect in a supplemental too?
I think you will see that come from both the House and the Senate as a standalone package that we have to do. We've already obligated funds. We have to pay attention to the deficiency at the Department of Public Safety because of the personnel and the screening devices that we already have in place. But we also know that this is an ongoing cost. It will be a cost and something we need to do for the courts and for the other constitutional officers. I would love it that we could go backwards and undo what happened to us all on June 14th. We can't go backwards. I think we understand it is a different world, perhaps forever, and we have to make sure that people who are coming to this building feel safe to participate.
There's also part of the safety conversation, so from like staffing for making sure that you can have the screenings 24/7 here. Is this special security unit that could be dispatched to a lawmaker's home if there's a credible threat? I'm wondering where leadership stands on an idea like that there would be a special unit that wouldn't be 24/7, but if it was Senator Erin Murphy having a threat against her life at her home, that State Patrol would go there.
I think it is an important addition to the tools that we already have. And, I won't ever really want to talk in public about the experience of June 14th and what it meant to call every member that day and ask them to call their own local law enforcement. But and I pray we never do, but if we ever face a situation like that again, I want someone I can call who can help us make sure our members are safe. So it is important to me.
Can you talk a little bit about what I call Senator Champion's sports tax bill, the one that was presented today that would remove a tax that Minneapolis has to pay for U.S. Bank, but also has the PGA funding in it? Can you talk about,
There are a number of provisions in bills that are coming forward that are priorities for members and for members' communities. And every year we end up talking about the assets, the public assets that are, in my case where I live, the Grand Casino Arena, Roy Wilkins Auditorium, the Twin Stadium. These are public assets. And we do have to continue to maintain them. And I am certain Senator Champion is working on that in his proposal. And we will continue to see that and other items like that move forward through this process. I don't know that they will pass this year, but it is important that we are paying attention to our maintenance, our obligation to maintain these public assets.
Can you talk about the PGA funding? I know Senator Russ presented a bill, and then that was placed into Senator Champion's bill. And so it seems to be, at least among some of your leadership, a priority to get the PGA some money here.
I think, it would be, fun for you to talk with Senator Russ about that idea. What we understand, what she will make the case for is a small infusion of public dollars will bring a large return of economic activity, and that's something that she's really interested in. Again, it is a proposal being carried by a member or two. I'm not sure what happens to that in the end of session.
Do you feel pretty confident about, good. Do you feel pretty confident about an HCMC fix? I know the Senate and House have the sales tax bill, but the House's tax hike would be higher. If you could tell us where that stands.
Yeah, I do feel confident about it, but I think it's important to remember that we are in this position now because of that federal budget bill that the President signed on the 4th of July. And this will not be the first thing that we have to address as a result. And our approach in the Minnesota Senate is to think through the statewide asset of HCMC. We all know why it's important. It's where we go if someone in our family is in a tragic accident, experiences a horrific burn, or has a persistent mental illness and needs ongoing care. It is a critical facility, but part of a larger hospital system in the state that is struggling. So yes, we need to address it. Yes, I believe we will address it, but we have to think about it in context of the hospital delivery system across the state of Minnesota, and the Senate's very focused on that. Could you go back again to that fraud question you asked me earlier?
Yes, so there was a press conference yesterday about taxing, people convicted of fraud, that have to give the money back, and then be a tax that would go to Minnesotans.
Yep.
So I don't even know if you're aware of it, or if there's a hearing in the House, but just what do you think of that?
Yeah, it is an issue that I am not yet familiar with. But I think it is important to understand that the legislature, all four chambers, working very hard on this issue. We understand that fraud is a problem. It is not only stealing from the state government, it is stealing services from people and people's confidence in a government they should be proud of. I feel good about the Senate's independent inspector general legislation now moving in the House, as well as efforts to prevent fraud, especially in our human services program, and investing more money in the Attorney General's office so they can pursue prosecutions. We are doing this work for the people of Minnesota, and I am committed for as long as I serve to remain ever vigilant in the oversight that we need to do here in the legislature to make sure this doesn't happen again.
What about the impact of the immigration action? We just have breaking news that an ICE agent has been charged with 2 felonies in Hennepin County, and earlier this week Ramsey County also announced investigation. So there's the law enforcement part, if you can relate to that, but also there's funding and business relief. Where is that in your priority list?
Again, another priority for our caucus. What we experienced here in Minnesota, armed, uninvited, masked, and lawless agents who killed 2 innocent Minnesotans is completely unforgivable. And while this administration, the Trump administration, has used its power to try and block an investigation and protect those people who killed innocent Minnesotans, we're not going to give up on that. I was really proud to see Ramsey County Attorney John Choi pursue charges, and I'm glad to know that it's happening in Hennepin County as well. It is important for us to get as much evidence as possible, and one of the provisions in our Metro Surge, anti-ICE, if you will, package is to make sure that the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is involved in federal investigations in instances where federal agents cause harm to the people of Minnesota. That has been the standard practice, the expected practice, and only under this administration do we see an effort to try and block our BCA from participating. It feels like a cover-up. It acts like a cover-up. It shouldn't happen, and we're not going to walk away from that fight to get justice for the families.
Just wondering if you have a stance on the bill to ban NDA use for local governments.
You know, I think that piece of legislation is a bit of a sleeper, but it's important. Minnesotans should know that we're not signing agreements and keeping secrets from them. That is not what an elected official should do. And unfortunately, the demand for some city electeds to sign NDAs has created a real problem. So I hope that we're able to take that up. I understand the House has problems with it, the House Republicans, I think. But I hope that we're able to take it up and pass it. I want Minnesotans to have confidence in their government. That is a measure that would improve people's confidence in their government.
Folks, we have time for one more.
Do you have a reaction to the U.S. Senate passing the repeal on the
We have
money
more
ban?
responsibility now than ever to protect the boundary waters here in the state of Minnesota, and we will. Okay. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
everybody. Thank you.
If I don't see you again, happy deadline day tomorrow. Go eat some meat.